Hello everybody, Frankie Day for Frankie Day Models. Okay fellas, I have before you this evening is an entry for Mr. Martin Lamots Bomber Command Group build, which is posted on a Facebook page that he has posted on there. Incidentally, I got thinking about my first entry, hey, what the heck, I haven't built plastic in a long time, so I want to go beyond. So I got 3 more entries along with my Blenheim kit I'm working on now. So that's going to be entered also. You'll see them on the stills behind me, because I posted some construction stills, and it's they'll be on the stills right behind me. Anyway, the balloon's come pretty nice. This is a really nice kit, fellas. I really enjoy building it. It's I really had no fit issues at all. One of my commenters I mentioned on my posting on the command group build, beware of the engine cowlings and the wings. He says that the cowlings come in segments. I think 6 pieces they come into. And so when the cowlings come over the cylinders, over the engine cylinders, they're really tight. It presents some kind of a gaps. So you got to file on top of the cylinders down to be able to get it closed. But I didn't have that problem in mind. The only problem I had in mind was, probably had in his too, he discussed, is the spars. I'll show you that on the stills. We'll discuss this on the stills. Okay, talk about stills. Let's zoom in and check out the stills. Then we'll finish up the video and show what makes the day we're doing. Okay guys, this is my entry. I got 2 of these kits in my stash, 2 new tooling kits. I've got this model, I've got the other one. The other one doesn't have the greenhouse nose on it like this one does. It's got a whole new nose on it. It carries external bomb racks on it. And so I got 2 of these in my stash. And suddenly I got 3 in my stash. I got a frog kit. Yeah, I got the frog kit at the bottom. And I've got 2 of these Airfix kits. So this is my first entry, and the other 3 will pop up at the end of the construction stills. Okay, open up the baggie. Of course, Airfix is really good in bag and tagging their parts now. They do the best they can, and they're getting better. They got neatly packed sprues that are actually neatly and tidy stacked inside a plastic bag. Inside the plastic bag is another plastic bag with clear parts, which is a very beautiful touch. Because I think Airfix right now is starting to understand a lot of those modelers don't like our clear parts scratched up, so they individually bagged and placed inside another bag. Thank you, Airfix. Okay, as you see right here, I removed the 2 fuselage halves, the spars, these false supports. These false could be oleo struts or it could be engine mounts or whatever. These were removed from the sprues. The bulkhead from the bomb bay to the cockpit has been removed. All but cleaned with my file board. Now I install the spars. I got the fuselage halves completely glued together. And these spars right here were glued in place too. And I took my sanding board and I sand a couple swipes back and forth. Beautiful. No seams at all. Except a little blemish right here. A little blemish right there. That was, I used a smidgen of filler on there. The only filler is needed, which you'll see on the coming slides. So at this point of construction right here, I went ahead and got the spars glued in place on the top wing. Now, I dry fitted the bottom wing onto the top wing. It's very tight because these spars are pushing up against these wings. The same problem I had on the Hawker Typhoon and also the Whitley bomber presented the same problem. To remedy the problem is take a file board right here, no sandpaper with your fingers, a file board, and take off at least anywhere from 2 to 3 thousandths off this spar by swiping back and forth, a few swipes. Same thing on the rear spar, same as done here. Take the wing and put it across there, see if it's push-ups against it. It don't, which I did. I put it on top of here, beautiful. And no pressure push up against the bottom wing. So I used this and glued the wings together and it came out perfect. Beautiful, I'm happy. Okay, here we go again. Same thing, different perspective. Okay guys, I got it joined together now. You can see where I had the filler. What you see with the filler is all there is. On the fillet of the wing root of the fuselage and the wing and the trailing edge is the only place where it needs filler, because everything else, it fits very flush and very nice and tidy. And so back here it presented some kind of a gap. It's way too thin to accept sheet styrene. It's just a small gap, guys, not much in the hair. But sanding it out ain't gonna do it. So that's why I applied a small tad of filler on there. Right here is your cockpit compartment. Here's your front part of the fuselage. Another view. Back here, I resanded a little more right there and took it out. No filler there at all. And of course, you get the flap wells right here. You can see how the flaps are. I'm gonna have the flaps down on this. It's a real nice kit, guys. I mean, these Airfix, new Airfix tooling kits, they're Jesus. They're getting up there with the state-of-art kits, and their Airfixes came a long ways. They made a hell of a comeback. Okay, right here, the forward picture here is the tail feathers. There's no halves to the stabilizers or the elevators or rudder. They're all one unit, guys. All one unit. There's a Bombay right there. Now the Blenheim, from my understanding, is that when they came out, they had I believe the manufacturer who made the Bristol aircraft company that made the Blenheim, they seen that there was military interest in this airplane, and the Bombay could be retrofitted. So this is a Bombay right here. They do have Bombay doors on the Blenheim bombers. On the first ones they didn't have them, but the other ones they did. And even on the end of the F version, they made Bombay doors on them. On the beginning models of the Blenheim, they didn't have the Bombay. If this airplane was to participate into a bomber roll, it's got to carry some kind of external internal bomb load. Because the only bomb load that the Blenheim had at the time, they carried bombs. Excuse me, guys. We'll go back. Is right here. At the trailing edge of the wing, there's a bomb mount right there. It fits on there. External bombs. I'm not too sure they had bombs mounted to the wings. They may have. I don't know. And there's also no armor protection forward in case of head-on attacks. These things were actually head-on attacked by 109s, and they lost a lot of Blenheims. It's because, like I say, guys, these things were a civilian airplane one time. And they were pressed into service because the running airplanes needed airplanes. And they actually retrofitted everything and to make it work as a bomber. Here it is right here. I finally sanded off right here. I'm going to do some more sanding. Right after this thing pictures were taken, I took it to the sink and sanded off more of this here with wet sandpaper. It's pretty nice. I took another 11 blade here and rescribed the panels lines. Now, I'll talk about panel lines. I'm going to treat this build precisely like I done in the Whitley. No primer. A lot of people say, gee, Frank, how come you ain't going to put no primer on there? You always do. Why no primer on this? Good question. Here's the answer. The answer is these panel lines. These panel lines are recessed. Beautiful panel lines, fellas. I kid you not. They're beautiful. And to keep these panel lines here, I'm afraid if I apply primer paint, that primer paint will fill these recesses where the panel lines are. So these panel lines are very subtle. They're very subtle. I mean, they get very, very low relief. They don't take much to fill them up. If I applied primer on here, and they go ahead and finish up with a finished color, these things will be filled in. So I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and paint the black over it. This thing will be entirely painted black. Different shades of black with a white wash. Because I need those panel lines really bad. All of us modelers love these panel lines, and we need them. These are the key route to realism is the panel lines. Instead of appreciating them, you can actually use a wash instead. That's what I have in mind. I'm going to treat this like I did the Whitley kit. It's going to receive a whitewash. I'm a happy guy right now. I'm going to knock off. I knocked off when this picture was taken. Now the airplane's pretty well built up now. I'll show you a best preview of this video. Okay, this is my second entry. The old Lockheed Hudson 1 bomber. Guys, I kid you not, this thing brings back a lot of memories. This actually was the first Airfix kit that I've ever built and ever bought before. Airfix didn't come to the United States, America, until around the fall of 1963. And relatively, they were very inexpensive kits at the time. Miles cheaper than the Revell and Monogram kits and Roar kits that the United States domestic kits we were accustomed to. But to the Airfix kits, I'd never heard of them before. None of us heard of Airfix before. And we had no idea where they came from. And we found out they come from England. And they produce stuff that I've been wanting since I was a kid. I says, man, I've been like to get a model of this. And so far, Revell and Monogram and Roar don't touch them. And Airfix is bringing stuff out that domestic manufacturers in the United States of America don't produce, don't even want to get near or don't care. There's no popularity and demand, but Airfix had a range. Anything that flew, they made a model of. And I love their English airplanes. Now I see this Hudson, I bought this thing. This thing in 1963 retailed at 89 cents. The Dakota C-47 was 89 cents. They had all the World War I range aircraft were 29 cents. The first one World War I aircraft I bought was the Bristol fighter, the Bristol. That was 29 cents. And the most expensive Airfix kit there was the Short Sunderland. It was $1.89. These are good kits. So this is a different boxing. This ain't the original 1963 boxing. This is a new boxing, probably, I don't know where it comes from, but it's Airfix logo on it. Or they may just change the boxing box art, I don't know. But this is the original Airfix kit. I bought this at Smitty's Hobby Shop that they had in the estate sale. As you can see on the yellow sticker behind the right pen, and tells you $20 cash only. And Russ at Smitty's Hobby Shop let me have a 15. Thank you, Russ. Anybody goes to Dayton, Ohio, go right down to Wilmington Pike, Smitty's Hobby Shop, tell Frankie they sent you, he'll get you a deal that you cannot imagine what kind of deal you get. Next picture, Frankie. Okay, we're going to fast sample on this one here. Alright guys, I ordered this about 2 weeks ago. This comes from Ukraine, from Russia. Now this is their reboxing, their reboxing of a Frog Airlines or a Nova kit. Nova, yeah. Now I remember these things were airlines kits, because I got 2 airlines kits of these in my stash. But I happened to get this. I thought this was like a new kit. To my surprise, it was the old Frog kit. And the selection of colors and decals is very poor. But what you're getting is a Frog kit and a boxing under the license of Eastern Express of Ukraine. And it gives you 2 options. This airplane here is a spy plane. This is a spy plane. You can paint it in this paint schedule here, or you can paint it here. This is how I'm going to paint mine. Now before I build this kit here, Martin, he commented me back on my posting of my entries here on the Bomberman Command group build. He said he ain't too certain this thing participated in Bomber Command, and so I went to Wikipedia and said internet and did some research, and I found out that this thing all kinds of squadrons these things were, they flew under. Number 8 Squadron, 39 Squadron, 63 Squadron, and a bunch of other squadrons out of Egypt and Aden and other places. But anyway, we call them the Baltimore bombers, and the English calls them Marylands. These are one of the first of the Lend-Lease programs, aircraft that Mr. Franklin Delano Roosevelt let Mr. Churchill have. At the time, war was underway in Germany, and they needed ships, food, supplies, and everything. And we just couldn't sit there and let the English suffer and be pummeled by this madman across the English Channel. And so Franklin D. Roosevelt and Mr. Winston Churchill were very close friends. They were very close. And he couldn't see Mr. Churchill and his country going without. He can only do as much as he can for political reasons, because we were not involved in the war. But Mr. Roosevelt wasn't going to sit there and let England suffer. He's going to give them stuff that we don't use no more. These were brand new airplanes at the time, but they're obsolete to us because they had no value. I mean, they're bombers, but they're sluggish and awesome. Look at what they were, bombers. And England needed them, and we gave it to them. Also along with the NA-40, which is the Mitchell bombers, and also the Lockheed Hudson was another fine example of the Lend-Lease program that they used. And the Boston bomber was another fine example of what they used. So I don't know if this thing participated in Bomber Command, but and other squadrons on the reference that I unearthed, it mentioning of bomber rolls. So this may be Bomber Command, because I can see them using the English using this in the beginning as bomber rolls. I found out the plane was probably a failure, and I understand why we didn't use them. I don't know. The Boston and Maryland bomber, guys, I really do not know. It's a queer airplane for its time, and it's very unpopular and a forgotten airplane. But it is a significant airplane in a lot of ways, because at the beginning of the 1930s, we're designing bombers, getting away from the biplanes. And I'm quite sure the English, they use them a lot more better and more effectively than we did. So anyway, this kit's questionable if it's going to get built for the group build on. If it does, I'm going to give it a go. If not, I'll put it in the stash pile and get it some other rainy day. Lastly is the old Revell 1/72nd scale Admiral Lancaster Mark I bomber. S for sugar. Guys, last time I built one of these Lancaster bombers was back in 1965. I built it from a good dear best friend of mine out in California when I was in high school. His name was John McEwen. His mother's English and his father's Scottish. And his father flew for the Royal Air Force. He flew Lancaster bombers. And his dad mentioned all the time about Lancasters like that, and all the time with this house we talked about Lancaster bombers. Well, that was back in 1963 is when Revell finally released the Dam Buster, and they released this. I bought 3 of these. The other one I bought, I gave to Mr. McEwen. I built that. That was 1965. That was the only one. I got 2 in the stash pile. I've got this one that I pulled out of the stash, and I got another one in the stash that I had since 1965. I built this just like this for Mr. McEwen. I used a blow airbrush back then. It's a tube you stick in your mouth and blow through. No compressors back in those days. And believe you me, you get kind of lightheaded at the end of the day. It came out really well. Anyway, I presented it to his father. I've never seen a grown man cry in my life. I presented this model, and he kind of affectionately looked at me and said, "Frankie, where'd you get this at?" I told him I bought it at a hobby shop, and I built it for you for your birthday. So he had it mounted inside the glass, and he was very, very honored, very overwhelmed, you know. He was a very nice, wonderful man. Good Scotsman. Okay, I'm going to build this. I'm going to work on this tonight. I'll make a video of this tomorrow. Probably a couple of days now, I'll have another video on the Blenheim bomb.